The 2018 quarterback draft class has to be one of the most hyped up draft classes in recent memory. You have Baker Mayfield, quarterback of Oklahoma, receiving likeness to former Heisman winner who was drafted with the first overall pick previous years, Johnny Manziel, for his on the field antics. Maybe you guys remember the infamous Kansas game where the opposing players refused to shake hands, which was followed by a complete obliteration of Kansas football team and the double bird given by Baker Mayfield to the Kansas students in attendance. Then you have Pac-10 superstars Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen, two solid pocket passing quarterbacks who led both of their teams to multiple bowl appearances and victories. Then you have an athletic freak getting comparison to Cam Newton. Some even called him the white Cam Newton. At this time, Cam Newton was good, so it was a good comparison. Playing at Wyoming, going by the name of Josh Allen. And maybe the most interesting of all the quarterback prospects is a skinny guy at Louisville who some people were arguing before the draft started shouldn't even go in listed as a quarterback but is better off playing running back or wide receiver. We now know him today as former MVP winner Lamar Jackson. Let's go through what it would have been like if these quarterbacks actually got drafted in the order of how they've performed in their short NFL career so far. Alright, guys, so with the first overall pick in the 2018 draft, the Cleveland Browns select Josh Allen, not Baker Mayfield. I know some of you are going to say, oh, it should be Lamar Jackson, but I mean, even though Lamar Jackson does have the accolade of being MVP, he does not have the postseason success of Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is just a fucking stud, man, if we're being completely honest. I mean, he's single-handedly revitalized the Bills team, which seemed it was going to head in the direction of other fan bases such as like the Texans and Lions and stuff like that. It was going down a bad path. The only thing they really had the last 10 years is a good defense. Allen came in, he kicked ass, even though he was getting criticized his first years. Oh, he doesn't have any accuracy. He's just a guy who can run and has a big arm. How many times have we seen this before? Not only does he have a fucking gigantic arm and can throw 80 yards down the field, he can now do it on the dot, and he does it consistently, averaging fucking like 4 touchdowns a game. The dude's just all around beast. And a crazy stat I didn't even know is Allen is tied for 8th among all players with 17 rushing touchdowns since entering the league. And he is a quarterback. That's insane, man. I mean, what a statistic. And now that he's paired with Stephon Diggs, there's a good future there in Buffalo. They're going to be safe for a while. But it'd be interesting to think how things would have went down had he been in the Browns system. I mean, the Browns have had terrible coaches, so I don't know how great he could have done with Freddie Kitchens coaching him. But you put Josh Allen with Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Austin Hooper, a decent O-line. You have a running back in Nick Chubb. That's pretty crazy. I mean, the Bills have kind of had a weak spot at running back. You've had some dudes in there who fill in okay. Devin Singletary's decent, but by no means is he an all-star caliber running back. But Nick Chubb's arguably one of the best running backs in the NFL. Top 3, definitely. So, I mean, you add him to that system with a defense that's already decent with the Browns. I think you're seeing some pretty angry videos from Steeler fan himself here, me. Now we reach the New York Jets. With the 3rd overall pick, they take Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, also a beast. Maybe not as good as Josh Allen, but considering he's won an MVP award, he's definitely made his fair share of marks on the NFL in his short time there. On the Ravens, he's broke multiple records. He stepped in when they needed him most, when Joe Flacco was deteriorating and it looked like all hope was lost in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, the guy they took a risk on, came in and became an instant hero. His fast feet, his athleticism, his speed, and his quick direction, fast thinking ability has made the Ravens a solid playoff contending team once again. It seems like the issue with Lamar Jackson now is whether he can stay healthy now that he has had back-to-back seasons where he's got a little dinged up and missed some time. We need to see if that's going to be a trend going forward, because then the Ravens might have a bigger problem on their hand. But that's for another video. Lamar Jackson steps into the really shitty Jets. So, even though this pick is the best available of all the quarterbacks, it doesn't necessarily make the best sense. At this time, the Jets' O-line was terrible. Even worse than it is now, because now they at least have Mekhi Becton, a great left tackle, probably a centerpiece of their O-line for years if they don't fuck stuff up. But imagine Lamar Jackson trying to run around and do his magic with no talent at wide receiver. The Ravens aren't stacked at wide receiver, but at least they have Marquise Brown. The Jets at this time had nobody. Their best receiver was like Jamison Crowder. And I mean, not to hate on Jamison Crowder, but I don't think he's a number one on any team in the NFL. And in addition to this, they have no one at O-line. How is Lamar Jackson supposed to do all these quarterback options and crazy runs when he doesn't even have an O-line to protect him? And if I'm not mistaken, this would have been around the same time Adam Gase was the head coach of the Jets. And considering Adam Gase's track record, and now that he coaches high school football, I don't know if he would have helped Lamar Jackson much either. So even though this would have been the best quarterback selection for the Jets, I don't think it would have worked out at all. Now with the 7th overall pick in the draft, the Bills can no longer select their future Pro Bowl, maybe even Hall of Fame caliber quarterback in Josh Allen. They have to take the next best thing, what they think at the time, Heisman winner Baker Mayfield. Oklahoma Sooner hero has had a weird history with the Browns. He's shown that he has moments to where he's super talented, and he's also shown moments to where he's not as great. It's questionable whether he's considered a true winner, as the Browns have had very mediocre seasons with him up until this point, though he did lead them to their first playoff win in, I believe, over 20 plus years. So it's kind of undecided whether he's really what the Browns need at quarterback currently. It's not even really sure if the Browns are going to bring Baker Mayfield back, and they might try to either reach for another quarterback, try to trade him, or maybe even try to draft one in next year's draft. Maybe even shock a few people and draft him in this year's draft. I don't think that's likely, but who knows with the Browns. So, now you have Baker Mayfield who's on the Bills. This is kind of interesting because Baker Mayfield isn't as big of a risk taker, I feel like, as Josh Allen. He doesn't push the ball down the field as much. So I think you actually see more immediate success with Baker Mayfield like you did in his first 2 years in Cleveland. I think the Bills probably end up in the playoffs both of those 2 years. But I think you kind of see a similar thing now where Baker Mayfield starts to digress a little, especially considering that the Bills don't have as prominent of a run game as the Browns. The Arizona Cardinals are on the board. 3 quarterbacks have already been taken off. Oh man, what to do? The Arizona Cardinals, with the 10th overall pick, select Sam Darnold. Now, Sam Darnold is really interesting. Similar to Baker Mayfield, he's had bright spots, definitely not as many as Baker Mayfield. These are more game situations and season-long situations we're talking about. but there's definitely some type of potential there. Me personally, I think the ceiling for Sam Darnold is on the higher side, but you're probably going to see him down the line fit more of a veteran journeyman quarterback role. He comes onto a team for a couple years. He does all right. He does whatever. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they finish 8-8. He bounces back to another team and signs a decent contract. I think that's kind of the guy you're looking at, Sam Darnold. I don't think he's going to be a franchise quarterback anywhere else. For his sake, I hope he does. I think he gets more flack than he deserves. Just recently, an article got published today, actually, saying how the Panthers are trying to ship off Sam Darnold, but they can't because his trade value has quote-unquote cratered. Kind of brutal, if you ask me. I don't think he's the worst player in the world. I damn sure think he's better than Mason Rudolph. I'll tell you that much. But so with him being on the Cardinals, it's kind of weird because I don't know if it really changes much. Because even though Josh Rosen definitely isn't a good NFL quarterback, I think we've determined that at this point. He's not the worst ever. He's not, the GOAT himself, Nathan Peterman, out there throwing 6 picks a game. But I would say Sam Darnold is definitely better than Josh Rosen. But the problem in Arizona at that time wasn't Josh Rosen. It was the coaching. It was a lack of morale and team spirit. The defense was terrible. They were giving up like 30 points a game. Now with the 32nd pick in the draft, the last pick of the first round, 4 other quarterbacks have been taken. The last one available is the man himself, the GOAT, the Ravens select, Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen, man, what an interesting story, man. Basically, it's the story of how one bad season can fuck over the rest of your NFL career. And I know people might say that that's kind of a reach, that he's had opportunities before, that he's not that great. But let me ask you a question. Do you really think he's that much worse than other fill-in backup quarterbacks who've came in and replaced people mid-games for injuries? There's people who've made entire careers off doing that, man. I mean, one person off the top of my head is Jeff Driscoll. Seems like a cool dude and all. He's done that for multiple teams. But are we really gonna say that he's miles ahead of Josh Rosen? Probably not. He's definitely better, but at this point, we're comparing apples to apples, man. Josh Rosen, man, he's got the bad end of the stick. I don't know if you guys know this. I just found this out researching this video. Josh Rosen was part of the Buccaneers when they won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, but he didn't even get a ring because of when he joined the team. It did not count towards him being able to get the Super Bowl ring or some weird loophole to where it didn't even really count for him. So just that's brutal, man. I mean, I think he's currently on the Falcons right now as a backup quarterback, but it seems that his NFL stint may not last for much longer, which is kind of sad to say. I don't know if we really need to do much speculation on how he would have done on the Ravens. I can't even begin to think how that would have changed the course of everything in the NFL had he gone there. I mean, the Ravens never get Lamar Jackson. They never get an MVP winner. They probably never make those playoffs year. They make the playoffs. But maybe Josh Rosen and an okay coach team with a decently run offense actually does good? I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about. I think, me personally, I lean more towards him being very mediocre and, not the similar situation with the Cardinals, but probably a little better of a situation where he still gets booted out of there after the Ravens try to get someone after a couple of years. On the bright side, though, I think the Ravens probably would have gave him a couple more years to prove his worth, rather than the Cardinals, who just kind of said, "Yeah, go fuck yourself, Rosen," after 1 year.